Happy Friday. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live. I'm so excited to bring you a What's Hot, What's Not report. This is a new thing that I'm doing on my LinkedIn Live, a la kind of a fashion pop magazine essence or style, because I think, sometimes we just need to get right to it, figure out what's hot, what's not, have a little fun, roast ourselves, roast the trends, celebrate, be glamorous. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But today, I'm really excited to really dig into what's hot and what's not for B2B marketing, especially when it comes to LinkedIn. And joining us is the brilliant Meredith Dennis, founder of Compression Marketing and a marketing expert extraordinaire. So we're going to bring her on the stage and welcome Meredith. Hello, Meredith.
Hi. I love it. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, this is really raw, real. We are right off the cuff, just going to be talking about all of these things. We're going to be covering trends that matter, like influencers and podcasting and AI, all these hot topic buzzwords. But before we get into that, real quick, Meredith, you're the founder of Compression Marketing. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, super excited to be here. It's going to be a fun conversation this morning. So founder and CEO of Compression Marketing. I started this company really out of an observation of a need to like stick to being people in our marketing and like really connecting as individuals and as human beings. And that sort of means that we got to get rid of all of the complexity and all the jargon and quit like chasing these numbers on a spreadsheet and forgetting that we have people behind the scenes that are like making choices, making
Yes.
decisions. And so that was the nexus of this, and bringing all of that sort of humanity to the concept of B2B marketing, and
Mhm.
really making those strong connections because that's what it's all about.
Right. It's really about making strong connections. And I wanted to bring you on because I feel like the marketers and people that I resonate with in this vertical are the ones that get the humanity behind the marketing, right?
Yeah.
So I always like to say, even though B2B is business, it's still human to human. We're still humans working
Yeah.
with each other in a business environment.
100%. 100%. You could
Yes.
not have said it better.
Well, we set the stage, and I want all of you watching today to pretend that we are judges, okay? We are going to have a LinkedIn B2B fashion show, and you're going to look at me and go, "What the hell, Rita? Those words should never be together." But I will tell you, rather than just sitting here and talking about the trends, we're going to have a little bit of fun with them. So let's let the top 5 ranking begin. These are in no particular order, but let's try to get started with our first. What we see is the top trend for B2B LinkedIn marketing. Try to say that 7 times in a row. So here we go. Let's let the fashion show begin. All right. So, first down the runway, we have template freebie posts. We've been seeing this a lot on LinkedIn today in every style, format, and shape that you can think of. These kinds of template posts we see often. You can give somebody a downloadable or you can make a post about it. Meredith, tell us what you've been seeing with these type of posts lately.
Yeah, absolutely. So templates are great. Everybody wants a nice quick fix, something that someone else can promise them works. I'm a template fan. However,
However,
there's one really big asterisk that I think we need to put next to these templates is you've got to make it your own. You've got to make it work for you. I would love to tell you it's copy and paste 100% of the time, but it's just not.
yes,
And it's like, what are you going to do with it, right? How many times have you downloaded a free resource and literally just like saved it, but never done
yes,
anything with it?
100%.
um, yeah.
Yeah, no, how we've saved, like, there's so many resources out there. You click the button, right? You download the template, and then maybe you forget about that person that actually sent you the template, right? It's like
Yeah.
there's great intention for that type of copy, but we want to advise you for a LinkedIn, faux pas on this is to not make a bunch of those posts and then forget about the engagement posts that would really encourage that relationship building and like content expertise as well. What are your thoughts on that, Meredith?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I see is you can tell when someone has decided to infuse themselves into the content or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's really we're gonna talk about it. I think we're gonna talk about it again today, probably a little bit later about
Mm-hmm.
authenticity, right? Like that is a top 5 word for 2025
Right.
is you could take all the templates, all the frameworks, all the structures you want, but they have to become your own. And
Right.
that means that you've got to care about your audience, you've got to care about your community, and you've got to adapt that template in a way that works for you and your audience in a real genuine way.
So, we like templates. We're not, thumbsing them down. We're not telling them to get off the trend runway for this year. But what we're saying is, from what I'm understanding, is make sure that your content approach is varied and you have different styles of what you're offering, whether it's a blog or a LinkedIn text post or a video. Like, let's not get too hung up on the next trend and then overdo it until people don't care about it anymore, basically. Just like in fashion, right? You there's a thing that can be trending. We all wear the snot out of it, for lack of better words, and then we're sick of it, right? So we don't want
Yeah,
that. We don't want you to be a flash in the pan. We want you to be long term, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Staying power.
Staying power, absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
so next down our uh, influencing, or rather, well, I kind of teased it already, but next in our top 5 are influencers. We've seen influencers everywhere and not just on Instagram, but on LinkedIn as well. Tell us, Meredith, are they out for this year? Are they in for this year? What does it really look like for us in 2025?
Yeah. Influencers are in 1,000%, but they are the micro and minor influences. And I'll tell you what I mean
Mm,
by that.
tell us.
Um, there is so much power in community and in people that you are really communicating with on a daily basis, right? They love what you say, they love your opinion, they care about getting your help. And these are people that have cultivated these really deeply connected audiences that are 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people that are highly engaged and they're there all the time for what that person has to say. That carries so much more value these days for brands than the mega influencer that has millions of followers, only a portion of which might actually matter to you and your company and your brand and what you're trying to accomplish. So influencers are in, but they're the micro influencers and they are going to have a moment in 2025.
Ooh, okay. Well, then let's keep our really rapid fire section going. And what's going to happen is at the end of our rapid fire, we might go back in and then get more deep into this, the nitty gritty of it all. But let's
For
keep the
sure.
fashion show going.
Let's
Okay.
do it.
So next in our top 5, Cynthia GPT, I mean, Chat GPT. We have AI coming down the runway. We've seen her, we've heard her. She is everywhere. She's in our content. She's even in podcasting lately. So, obviously, I'm going to assume that AI is going to be a top trend, right? But tell us about what we need to be careful about in 2025 with AI.
Oh, so many things.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Let's get into
yes,
it.
yeah, you can't shake a stick at anything and not talk about or hear about AI. It's here
Mhm.
to stay. There's no doubt about that. But what I will tell you, especially as a marketer who is probably in the space where we're more attuned to AI than other professions and other areas, um, it is it is a helpful tool and it does not matter how fabulous your tools are if you aren't using them effectively. And
Mhm.
the biggest faux pas that I see happening with
Yes.
AI is letting her do all the work without infusing your own essence. I touched on this
Mhm.
with templates and how, like, yeah, templates are fabulous. They're a hot topic and they're super helpful. But in AI, the same thing applies. If you are not infusing what it means to be you and yourself and human, it's going to fall flat. And we've
Mhm.
already gotten to a place where people can very quickly pick out whether or not a human wrote something. Um,
Yes.
and it has created this massive swell of information that is just noise. And I will tell you that I don't like to listen to things that are just noise.
Right.
And so, my best piece of advice is to stick with the humanity and
Mm,
go ahead and have your favorite AI tool help you be a thought partner, help you craft an outline or a draft, or
right.
make things synthesized really nicely. But what I am telling you is that if you let AI do the work and you don't pay attention and you just shove it right on through the pipeline, you're gonna be disappointed.
You're gonna be disappointed, and it's gonna be like, in fashion, as an example, that's not really B2B at all, but we're rolling with it. There's a lot of knockoffs out there, right? There's the OG, like you got Louis bags, you got Gucci, whatever, all of these like kind of fashion leaders, if you will. And then the knockoffs try to take over and try to copy what the fashion leaders are doing. And then it becomes not as valuable anymore. Right. So in B2B, I view it as there's thought leaders that AI has kind of analyzed and taken content from. And then now everyone's trying to be like, oh, I want to sound like Alex Hormozy or what make content that sounds like that. Or I want to sound like this person. Well, you're not doing a service to yourself if you're doing that because what do you sound out like? Like, what does
Yeah.
Meredith sound like? What does Rita sound like? What is our own voice? Right. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, our sense of identity and who we are as people is so important.
Yes.
I was having this conversation the other day about, some people in our audience may not remember this, but there used to be these things called photocopiers, and
Yes.
you could make a black and white copy of something, but the number of times you do it and you ultimately end up with a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time you do that, it loses density, it loses its sharpness, it loses its
Yes.
quality and the essence of what it was. And that's what I'm seeing happen in so much of the content that's getting produced
Mm-hmm.
without the human touch. And I don't want to look at a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
No.
I want to be participating with that individual that had the brilliance and the idea and the thought, and talk about it with them, because the level of passion and care is completely different than the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy.
Well said, Judge Meredith, in this fashion show of content. All right. So let's bring down the next top five ranking that we've been seeing and let's get that fashion show rolling. All right. So next, we've seen a lot of copywriting trends. Like, for example, you need to be authentic, or yeah, we got to be professional. Like, try to be serious and use that corporate like dominant type messaging in your marketing. And what I'm trying to say is, there's a lot of noise telling you the voice and the messaging in which you should use for your LinkedIn content and your strategy. So I know authenticity is a buzzword that's being thrown around, but tell it to us straight, Meredith. What do you see happening for this year when it comes to the tone and the branding essence of that messaging?
Yeah, yeah. I hope that 2025 is the year that jargon dies.
Yes.
Um, there's so much that happens, especially in B2B, where you have this culture of like your own language, your own terms, the things that are so powerful for you and your organization inside the four walls of what you do. But the sad truth is, it doesn't resonate or impact your customer at all. They don't
Mm,
care about your special language and your cool words that you made up and your lingo. They care about how your brand or your company helps them solve a problem,
mm-hmm.
fix an issue. Like, they care about themselves. Like, we're humans and we're pretty selfish beings,
Yes.
and whether we like it or not, it's
Yes.
true. And so the thing that I really hope happens is that companies can get out of their own way and stop using their jargon to try and connect with customers. Talk your customers' language. Like, be that translator and meet them where they are.
Can you give us a quick example of what that corporate jargon could look or sound like that we want to stay away from?
Yeah, yeah. So an example that I'm going to use, because I've spent a lot of time working with colleges
Mm,
and higher education. There's a term that gets used a lot that's called, it says stop out. the
Okay.
schools and the industry uses this term stop out all the time.
Okay.
Stop out is what they think is a nicer way of saying drop out, which is basically a student that for whatever reason, any number of circumstances, didn't continue pursuing their education. And
Right.
there are thousands, if not millions, of reasons that someone would choose to step away from education for any period of time. But
Right.
that is, I think that's a really great example. Higher education says stop out. I don't want, as a student, I don't want to be referred to as a stop out. I don't want to be
That sounds
labeled.
worse.
I don't want to be labeled that way. Talk
Yeah.
about labels, right? And so, when students are perhaps reconsidering going back to school, they
Mhm.
don't like there's all kinds of emotions attached to that. There could be fear or shame or excitement and motivation. Like there's a huge
Right.
gamut, right? And we want them to feel connected and excited and inspired. And I think that that's a perfect example of a term that out in the open world doesn't mean anything to a
Yeah, like
student.
I have never even heard of it before. I went to college. I don't know.
Right? Right?
Right.
How I mean, there are a lot of students in the world, a lot of
Yeah.
learners in the world,
Yeah.
and so we probably should be communicating with them in ways that they care about.
I see. I see. All right. Well, we are getting close to our fashion runway closeout. And for the grand finale, I had to end with my personal favorite, which is podcasting.
Woo
Podcasting. Look
woo.
at her. Look at her beautiful dress. Look at her in all
I
her
love it.
glory.
I love it.
Podcasting is a big trend and it's changing and it's doing a lot in 2025. So before I talk about it, I want to hear from the marketer. What do you think podcasting's impact will be, at least in B2B in 2025?
I think podcasting is one of the best ways for brands to stop being like these headless bodies, and really have like people, right? We
Yes.
talk about personal branding and how important that is for our careers or our
Mhm.
aspirations. And I think that podcasting is one of those key ways that companies are going to stop being sort of these big logos on a
Mhm.
screen and actually be the people that are making the magic happen within the companies.
Yes.
And it's going to be a way for those thought leaders inside of departments, whether it's human resources or marketing or finance or whatever it might be. Podcasting, I think, is going to be a great way for people and individuals to talk about the great work they're doing, the impact it's having, and how that makes the company and the brand that much more effective. Instead of just, like I said, having a logo or a tagline plastered somewhere, you're going to really get to the essence of the people that make the machine run.
I agree with that 100%. And I would also warn that another trend on the flip side of podcasting has happened, which is AI podcasts. Now, that completely defeats the purpose of what exactly you just said, which is why I wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Don't let the headless business like disease that you got going on, like phobia, continue and use that as now I can still, hide behind my company and just have like AI people talk about our company. No, it's not. That's not the point. The point is to build relationship. It's to build connection and it's to tell a story. And stories are most impactful when you can hear or even see and resonate with the person that is telling said story. I think B2B this year is going to learn a little bit a thing or two about B2C. I think the founder stories that B2C have been able to establish and really personify in their marketing and messaging, it's still professional, yet it does build relationship. And in my opinion, I think we need to be looking more at what our cousins B2C are doing in the sense of our marketing and personification of the business and try to influence our own strategies with that as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, stories are hugely, hugely powerful.
Mhm.
It is something that as human beings, just really resonate with. It's how we can relate to each other.
Right.
Um, and I think one of the biggest things that we're going to see, sort of along those same lines, is businesses sort of transitioning to making their customer the hero of that story instead of
Right.
them. right? Instead of the
Mhm.
business being the hero and the savior and the Superman, the customer is their own hero, right?
Right.
And I think that that's extremely powerful. And I think we're going to see it happen in the small and medium-sized businesses first, because
Okay.
they're a little more nimble, they're a little more
Right.
agile, like they can do things a little bit faster than those big enterprises. And I think it's a really, really great opportunity for startups and small businesses to lead the way and sort of show big business how important that is. And I really, really hope that we see lots and lots of that, because the storytelling is how we connect. It really is how
Right.
we connect.
I mean, it's how we've been conditioned to learn as humans
Mhm.
before, like, we even had technology or anything really, like in the
Yeah.
Stone Ages or the caveman time, right? Like, that's how we learned. We shared stories and then we
Mhm.
passed those stories down and then we remember them. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you want your content to be so well remembered that another generation would still remember what you're saying? Like, that's kind of epic.
It's
I don't know.
really powerful. It's
Yeah.
really powerful.
Okay, well, that was our top five. So let's go ahead and do a recap of them, and then I'll give us an opportunity to kind of dive in or give some more
Yeah.
thoughts. So, as a recap, the top five trends that we're seeing for what's hot and what's not in B2B marketing are templates galore on LinkedIn. Influencers specifically, we're leaning towards liking the micro influencer type model. Podcasts, preferring the human ones and not the robot ones. AI, using them as your content buddy and not so much as your robotic replacement. And leaning more towards authenticity and storytelling in whatever way is possible for your brand, and trying to stay away from making up words that nobody cares about or understands. So that's kind of my ranking. So thank you to our fashion contestants for coming down the runway for that. How was that? That was probably the first time you've ever done anything like that on a business podcast, Meredith.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I did a fashion show podcast, but I'll tell you, I'm inspired. I can't wait to be on my next red carpet.
Yes.
Because, like I said, we're humans are a little bit selfish and we're also kind of judgy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
I love that. So we'll round out with just kind of a open conversation here. I
Yeah.
really want to hear your thoughts on maybe the biggest mistake that you think companies might be making in this year. Like, they might see all these trends, they might see all these strategies. Like, what's the biggest thing you would urge brands to kind of stay away from and just kind of stay focused and narrowed in on instead for this year?
Yeah. I think that we've got to get away from this sort of growth at all costs kind of philosophy that we hear about.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, you cannot, as much as you might like to think you are, you cannot be everything to everyone, because what ends
Mm.
up happening is your message gets so watered down, and it doesn't end up resonating with anybody. So instead of being everything to everyone, you're nothing to nobody.
Right.
And so to really have some success and see some growth, you've got to pick a lane, for lack of a better term, and really focus on the special, unique, differentiated way that you help your customers solve a problem. And you've
Mm.
got to lean into that, because it's that specificity that is going to allow you to flourish. I believe that there are big enough slices of this pie for everybody to win. And so I think that whole, like, generic uh generic sort of, we help you do everything great, is just, it's just over, it's just done,
Okay.
it's just done.
What's a better way of going about it? So I'll plug. We'll use myself as the roast myself, right? So I created a tagline recently, and I wrote on mine because I keep seeing this. I keep seeing the trend. I help you do this. We help you do that, right? So I wrote, I create video podcast experiences that spark connections and help agencies scale. So is that exactly what not to do based on the example of what you're saying?
I actually think you've done a really nice job of crafting that to fit your model, but I will agree with you. I see this statement and I know where it came from. One person did it and then they started talking about it everywhere. It's a
Right.
great example of the template approach.
Okay. Okay.
I help blank do blank, or I
Right.
help blank solve blank. It's very simple and the intention behind it is great because it's
Right.
supposed to help you synthesize down what you do to its simplest, purest, clearest form.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it has turned into everyone's headline. I help
Right.
blank blank.
Yes.
So it's not sexy anymore
Okay.
anymore. But what you've done in your example is you took out the word help and you inserted
Hmm.
create, right? So
Yeah.
I think I'll go back to our template example from our top 5. Go ahead
Right.
and use the template, but the words that you use have to be chosen with precision and
Mm.
And I
Yes.
think where you get out your handy dandy thesaurus, this is where you might use your really smart intern
Mm-hmm.
to help
Yes.
generate some ideas so that you have something that's much more impactful. It's still
Mm.
there, but it's much more impactful and it's going to resonate deeply with the exact right people that you're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, if you can craft it as if you're trying to talk to one person,
Okay.
you're going to get that group of people
Mm.
that connect with you.
See, I love that. Thank you for being open to kind of talk to me about that because that's an example of a best practice, quote unquote, that we see
Yeah,
out in the world. But you're
yeah,
right. It is if you go a layer deeper than that, if you can talk to one person, you are already kind of talking to a group because if
yeah,
you connect with that one person and you actually work with them, then they will refer you to another person just like that person and just like that
yep,
person and then the cycle continues. So very
exactly.
interesting. Okay, I love that. Okay, so we talked about a little bit of, what you would urge kind of brands to stay away from
Mhm.
for this year. I want to hear from you personally. What are you most excited about as far as content, LinkedIn, and marketing in the B2B space in like yourself, like for 2025 for this year?
I'm excited about a lot of things, frankly,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2025.
Yes.
There's a lot to be optimistic about.
Yes.
And there's a lot of I think there's a lot of tide turning where
Mm,
we are going to see more individuals showing up as themselves.
mm,
I think I was reading an article this morning, like 30, I think it's like 30 or 31% of people have a side hustle of some sort. And a large portion of the people in their day jobs that have those side hustles work in creative industries. They
wow.
work in marketing communications, they work in media. And so not only do they have a day job, a 9 to 5, but they've also got a side hustle that they're in love with. And I think we're going to see the side hustle become more the main hustle for a lot of people.
Ooh,
And
okay.
I think that's really exciting because that's us taking ownership of our own destinies a little bit.
Yes.
Um, and I hope that more folks feel empowered to show up as themselves, talk about what they're doing, just as like a holistic person.
Yes.
Because usually these side hustles start out as passion projects, and I love seeing those turn into the main hustle for sure.
Yeah. Do you have a story like that? Did your kind of side hustle turn into your full-time work too? Or what do you
A little, maybe a little bit,
a
not
little bit.
a little bit. So I am one of those weird people that works in the fields that I actually went to college and studied for and got a degree in.
Yes.
And I acknowledge that that's rare these days.
Yeah.
But I've been in marketing for like 20 years. I've seen a lot of
Yes.
change, right? But what I will say is when I left my last W-2 job,
Yeah.
I did it with no qualms and really no safety net because
Wow.
I was at the time I was done with toxicity. I
Yeah.
couldn't handle one more minute of being in a toxic space. And I was
Yeah.
seeing it happen over and over and over in different business environments. It wasn't about jump ship and go to a different company.
Yeah.
It was just fundamentally a problem. So I left and I was like, I can do this better.
I love
Um, and I really leaned into that and didn't look back. And it was a big risk. and it was a little scary. And I'm so glad I did it. And it's one of the big pieces of advice I give people today is do it scared. Um, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because if you're doing work that is uniquely yours, that you're so passionate about, the word work sort of starts to fall away.
Yeah.
And you just feel like you're doing really cool stuff and happening to get paid for it.
Yeah, like today when I designed a fake fashion show for a LinkedIn conversation on B2B, I kind of looked at myself and going, why am I on Roblox and getting paid for this right now?
Right,
This is
right.
crazy. I love that so much. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of help, if anyone decides, you know what, I need help with my marketing, how can they best reach out to you, Miss Meredith?
Well, of course, I'm here on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
obviously. Definitely hit me up anytime. You can message me on that platform. I'm also over on Instagram. And you can email me at Meredith at compressionmarketing.co. I manage that inbox myself.
I like
So
it.
you're gonna hear directly from me if you choose to send me an email. And then of course check out compressionmarketing.co if you need any resources, if you've got questions about how to help your B2B strategy go to the next level.
Well, thank you so much, Meredith. And for all of you who are listening today, either now or in the future, thanks for joining us for What's Hot, What's Not. We will go ahead and cue the outro. Bye.